Hello everybody, my name is Daniel and I wanted to show you something. Let's take a look. So I'm working on my animation project. I showed you a couple of videos of those, two are out there already. So I showed about one theme I showed some month ago almost, I guess. Yeah, it was a month ago. And there was a scene, the first intro scene of my project, and after that I uploaded a scene in the parking lot where a guy goes to his car, turns the engine on, drives away. And then was a scene after that where he actually was driving. Well, you see the camera and the car driving by at night, and that was all. I mean, that's not all I done more, but I didn't edit that yet because I don't want to spoil you all the story I have prepared and still making. Lots of scenes up to come. Anyway, I got my car here, Charger Crash 3, because there's gonna be a crash. And yeah, we got the objects here, the door and the door 2. And let's see, import a single mesh? No, because I want the thingy separated. Alright, now when I select this, you can see I got the car here and the door as one piece. And how, because when I was deforming in ZBrush, the crash, as you can see here, it crashed and it looks like that. It crashed against the tree. So the problem was, also I had problems with textures as you can see here, but it's nighttime and nobody will see that. I'm gonna make sure about that. I don't know why the textures get deformed. Maybe I deleted something or I don't know. Anyway, the car usually comes with bones and you can open the doors, but once you convert this to OBJ, you lose all bones, and so there's only one way to move actual parts of the car, and that way is by or deforming them or directly go and make them subprops. In this case, this is the car and the door is attached to the car, and the door has its own there we go. Of course, if I select the door right now, the pivot is completely offline, so you have, well, you can move it like you can see. And to actually put the pivot back in position, you just go to affect pivot here and move it like on the side of the car in this order, like this, and then just unclick this, and now if you rotate here you can see the car door opens correctly. You can do this adjustments also in 3dxchange. You mostly have to do that because the pivot mostly gets reset once you import it into 3dxchange. But the important thing is not the pivot, because you can adjust that later. The important thing here is to make a sub prop in your meshes. So for example, the next step I want to do, because I already made the door, is open the I mean, what's that thing called again? So I'm back. I actually looked up how was the word in English, and it's trunk. So open the trunk here back, and because I didn't remember that word because I'm still learning English. So to open the trunk here and make it a sub prop like this one, and then adjust the pivot so I can open the trunk, because I know this car has a trunk inside, I know it. So I open the trunk and I will make sure the guy, the main actor in my animation, will take out a flashlight probably, or some blunt weapon he can use against an unknown aggressor. I cannot say more because it would spoil all the story, so let's go ahead and do this. Select the mesh and then go to editable mesh here. have that selected and just select the element here. As you can see, the element is the one part trunk here is already selected, but the question is this the one I want? Let's move it. Let's see. So if I move this up, I can see in the trunk, but I still have some elements here to select. Let's go back and select both of them. Okay, so we have one problem here. The back side, this side here, the white side, is a unique part. It's separate from the car mesh. So in order to get this, we have to select this part only here and make sure, if we do this, that we actually go and hide the car. So let's see. Just say I go and select all. No, we just go to select an element like this. Bum. Then this. Then this. Oh. Alright. So we got the lower part selected here, and so with this selected, let's see, and hide selection. I don't think that works in this way. I have to actually use it without the editable mesh and hide selection. There we go. Now, yeah, this gives me the possibility now to go and select the individual part here and then go to editable mesh and select only this part and look. I wanted to look down to see if it has two faces, because if it has only one face, that's no problem, we can deattach that, but if there are two faces, I need both. So just select this tile here and select detach and say trunk part 1. That's about done. Now let's unhide all. Now as you can see, now this part here is a separate part. Now what we can do is take this part here, the trunk, and let's just see if it's, yeah, probably need to open this. No, but this part is all part of the trunk. Okay, this is the trunk and this is the other mesh. So we're gonna detach that as well and call it trunk main. Now we got two parts, and what I'm gonna do now is take the trunk mesh out. Now we got the trunk main and this part. Now the only thing I'm gonna do is now select this part here and attach it to the trunk. Now if I select it now, as you can see, wait, let's go to shaded. In shaded version, the shadows are deactivated and that can work better. So as you can see, I have the whole trunk selected now. Wait, come back here. Now editable poly, please. Thank you. I got the whole trunk selected and it's one mesh. So the only thing to do now is edit the pivot. So go here and move the pivot like in the middle of the trunk, like here on the end. Make sure it's high enough. That should do the work. Now let's see. Yeah, there we go. So the trunk opens and it closes. So this does not only always work on every mesh you edit. There we go. Because some meshes are very unique and you cannot separate them. Well, there's a way to separate them, and that is by, if you see, this is a unique mesh here, and let's just say you want just one partial part here. So if you select this, you have all, but if you select this or this here, you can select the polygons one by one. Sometimes you have to do that in order to select all, and other times not. It depends on the subdivision of the meshes. So have in mind that sometimes there are meshes you cannot take out the door because it is not made for it. In this case, the door is complete with inside and outside. Now imagine the door has no inside life, so inside meshes. It's possible to take it out, yeah, but imagine now that the meshes, like you select this here, and you see, if you select it and that here, if you see that the poly cuts here in the middle, and so if the meshes and the poly comes through the door to the other side, and if you select the polys one by one, you see that one of the big polys here, is so large that it's crossing over. In this case, you cannot select it. You only can select it if the door is, as you can see, one mesh by himself. If the door is one separate mesh, you can do it, but if it's a whole mesh together, it's difficult to select it all together. So have that in mind if you do this, because some meshes are just not made to be separated. In this case, it is not. You can separate them because the car normally came with bones, and I still have the original car with the bones that I use, but in order to make this deformation here for the crash, I had to go to ZBrush and edit it. Normally I could apply it as a morph, but somehow 3dxchange is very bad to me, and many of my meshes are like when I export them as OBJ, export only the mesh in 3dxchange, it says to me that the mesh successfully exported, but there is some issue with the meshes, and that issue is never explained, but he says it probably won't work as a morph if I import it. So if I export the mesh, apply it as a morph, because you can do that even to a prop, and 3dxchange say, oh no, sorry, the poly count on this mesh is not the same as the one you have. So somehow 3dxchange exports you mesh, the same mesh you have, but the poly count of the meshes are not going to be the same as you imported, even if you didn't change a thing. So sometimes I do not understand that problem, but it happens more often, even in that case, that if I was exporting let's say an avatar, I have a long time exported, and I made a morph to deform the face or the body, and it worked perfectly. Now I do it the same thing and wanted to export to change it, it gives me an error. I don't know why, I cannot explain it. Now it's Windows again here saying has trouble. Well, anyway, that is my trouble I have lately with 3dxchange. If you have troubles like this, let me know, because I really want to know that I'm not the only one. Well, anyway, I got the model ready, and I got my my trunk, that was the word, for open now, because it's necessary. So I export this as go to desktop, car, and export it as OBJ file. Now, car cha-cha crash 3, just override it. None, yeah. That should do, I hope. Done. So there's my car. We've still got some problems here with the transparent maps, I guess. That's another issue 3dxchange has. It loads in the opacity map as a diffuse. So let's see. I'm back. I did this. I couldn't see the normal map. I mean the diffuse map because it was a toggle. See, it was right on the side and I could not see it. Anyway, the textures inside are messed up, but it doesn't matter because I make it black anyway. And nobody gonna see it. It's a night scene. So we got our deformation here, and as you can see here in the top up there, we got the door. Here, this is the door I previously made. Let's see. So we have to go to make a sub prop again and call that car door. Now we have to go to the trunk and call that, make another sub prop and call it trunk. So now if we go to our orbit gizmo, you can see, as well as we go to the translate gizmo, the pivot is completely out of range. So let's go to transform pivot here and edit pivot. So we basically do the same as in 3dxchange. We move our pivot in the middle of the trunk and make sure it's far enough up, like this, and we close and we test it by moving it. As you can see, the trunk opens. There's a problem here. You can see right through it, but that can be solved easily by going into our material tab, select the trunk, in this case is a car, and make it two-sided, as you can see, and the problem is solved. So going back to this one, let's close the trunk. There we go. And now we're gonna make the same for our car door here and edit the pivot as well. Nope. Where is my pivot? There we go. Just move it here and then on the side. That should do. There we go. See how messed up that looks? Terrible. But I'm gonna put the color in black inside so nobody gonna see it. It's working. So now I got what I wanted. Now I can open the trunk of the car. Before I only could open the door, and that will be imported, and then I make a scene with that. And that's all I wanted to show you. I didn't upload a video for a while because I wasn't feeling it. I mean, there's some other things I maybe will upload. Not know if today or tomorrow, we'll see. Anyway, there's one more thing I wanted to tell you. If you now go and export this, imagine now you import an avatar and you apply the opacity maps. They normally come with the diffuse map. If not, you have to apply them separately. And many times, and I say that because I render with Indigo, and Indigo is very like scrupulous. I could say that in English. Indigo is like it doesn't see the textures and the diffuse maps like it sees iClone, you know. iClone sees the texture and diffuse map and say, okay, that's okay like that. But if in the side, in the textures, let's select this for a moment. If here is the diffuse map and here's the opacity map, and the opacity map has to be in black and white and it loads correctly here in 3dxchange. But once you most times import it into iClone, suddenly the diffuse map turns into the opacity map. I don't know how that happened, but iClone still reads it as an opacity map and doesn't make problems. but Indigo doesn't. Indigo reads it as a diffuse map what it is, so you have to reload the textures to get you black and white opacity map again. And that's, I say that, a bitch, you know, it's because you have to do it twice the work. So it's something they should really fix. I mean, it's annoying if you have to do the work twice. So I assume you should edit the textures in 3dxchange and only the basic ones like the normal map, and then later on in iClone add the rest of the textures. But sometimes you have to add the textures to see if everything is correctly. So why bother, no? I mean, anyway, that's one of my issues anyway. So I'm done with this. Okay, I hope I helped you a little bit with this, so you can actually go ahead and make OBJ files move separately with cars. You can do that with doors and house. If you have, like, let's say a prop who is a geometry like a scenery, and you have one part of the scenery with one part, but you want to move it, no? So you go into 3ds Max, export as OBJ, and do what I do, make a sub prop, and then you can move it and change it in your actual scene, and that's going to be very helpful. This how it's done, and I'm finished here, and see you in the next video. Hasta la vista.